Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first ever episode of Creature Commission, a series where I feature a creature that were commissioned by people and I show you the process of how I did it, some interesting information about the animal, and hopefully you can take a thing or two from this video that you can apply to your very own artworks. But at the very least, I hope you enjoy this video. Without further ado, let's begin making Patrick, the Parasaurolophus. First off, like any artwork, we need to gather reference material. Here, I've made a sketch based off a skeletal of Parasaurolophus walkeri, the creature in question that we'll be making. We also have another diagram here that shows this dorsal view of another species of Parasaurolophus, P. cytocristatus. Wow, can't believe I got that the first try. Haha, amazing. We first make the head by bending metal wire into shape. We make the skull, mandible, and crest separately, and we cover each part with masking tape to bulk it out a bit. After that, we then superglue the head crest to the skull. Now onto the front legs. We bend the metal wire to the desired shape, and we cut masking tape and roll it up to outline the shape of the front limbs, filling up the outline and covering it up with more masking tape, resulting in a somewhat 2D structure which we will bulk out with more masking tape later. We cut some thinner pieces of wire and superglue them to the lower part of the legs to form the pinky of the animal. The same process applies for the back legs, and in addition we make 4 toes from the same size wire and claws from much thinner metal wires. We then superglue them to the main leg. We now outline the shape of the body using 2 separate metal wires of different lengths, matching the shape whilst also leaving some space because we will be adding a layer of clay later. After that, roll off some tape and fill out the outline and cover the entire thing, and it'll look something like this. Utilizing the diagram with the dorsal view shown earlier, we bulk out the animal with masking tape and paper, and before we covered it all up with masking tape, we post the legs into our desired stance, and then stick them onto the main body, covering the entire thing with masking tape, and making sure that the legs are well secured. To begin the sculpting process, we'll use polymer clay. The one that I'm using is an off-brand material. It just comes in packaged without any label, but it works well when baked at the right temperature. I still have models somewhere that are around 3 years old as of the making of this video, using said off-brand clay. You're going to need some tools to create more details, especially this little slab of baked clay with some holes in it. Just spray some water on this piece so bits and pieces of the clay won't clog up the holes, and press down a flat piece of clay to form scalation, making this a much easier endeavor than sculpting the scales individually. This technique is taken from David Armsby. Check out his YouTube channel, Dead Sound. He makes some absolutely stunning content. Link to his channel in the description. We make the feet of the front limbs, and unfortunately, I'm going to sculpt the animal off camera because it's incredibly difficult for me to do so while recording, because 1, my eyes are a bit terrible, and 2, it's difficult to sculpt when there's a tripod sitting on my lap, so yeah, sorry about that guys. It's depicted here being a mitten of flesh, bearing a hoof, with a small finger possessing a nail, and a pinky without one. This hoof structure is based off another hadrosaur called Edmontosaurus, specifically the specimen nicknamed Dakota, the dino mummy, beautifully preserving the soft tissue of the animal, allowing us to get a better understanding of their anatomy. For the feet in the back, cover them with a thin layer of clay, add some mass to the claws, add some scales again to birds, and voila, it's done! Now we cover the armature with a thin layer of clay. We press down on that slab with some holes in it, except for the head and neck region, as well as the tail, and using a tool we made that also has holes in it to blend it all together. Before baking, when you're using clay that has specific instructions on how to bake it, follow that. But since there's no such thing in my case, I have to estimate and improvise using an old pan and cardboard box. and I bake it until the areas closest to the bottom of the pan begin to brown. When that happens, turn off the heat and let it cool down considerably. After baking, you can see it melted with the base a bit. We just have to take it off using something sharp. Be careful when doing this, especially when what you're using is rusted like I am right here. And here we have it so far. Nice looking details. Now onto the head and tail, and again, I had to do this off camera unfortunately. Finally, here we have it. I highly recommend looking at some well-made reference material for details on the head. We finally begin painting the figure, and as per the request of the one who commissioned this piece, we'll be using this panther chameleon as the basis for our paint job. Unfortunately, I couldn't film the entire process of painting, but basically, we covered the entire thing with a layer of the base color, that being the bright yellow-green, and we just gently paint on the other patterns of orange underneath the limbs and neck, reds and blues for stripes, and some whites here and there, and we should end up with something like this. I have to say, it's matching pretty well with the reference that we've used, but we have to do a few more techniques to make it pop. Making a wash out of watered down paint to darken the cracks and crevices, dry brushing to highlight the raised edges, and another wash to darken areas such as skin folds to increase contrast. Even though the colors are quite vibrant and over the top for an animal such as Parasaurolophus, I do quite like it. It might not be everyone's cup of tea though, due to its striking and perhaps unrealistic appearance. The scale in which I've made this animal is basically translating the meters into inches. Say we're going to make an animal around 5 meters long, the resulting model will be around 5 inches. Parasaurolophus walkeri was around 9 meters long in life. To put that into perspective, we have this stick representing the average height of a human, which is around 1.75 meters tall. As you can see here, it is quite a large animal, and contrary to popular belief, it's not a defenseless creature only existing as fodder for predators. Parasaurolophus was a hadrosaurid, specifically in the small grouping called Lambeosaurinae, a group of hadrosaurs known for possessing an array of elaborate and unique head crests. These were likely used as display structures, attracting mates, deterring rivals, individual identification amongst the species, and perhaps other species of hadrosaurs with different head crests, as evident from the fossil record that shows that these animals may have lived in multi-species herds, and as a resonating chamber to amplify their calls. In fact, due to a well-preserved skull of the animal that still shows the chambers present inside the head crest, scientists were able to create a 3D model of the crest. They then made a replica, and by blowing air into it, we may have heard the first true call of a non-avian dinosaur in over 75 million years. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to lend your support by liking, subscribing, and all other YouTube things. Comment down below any of your thoughts on the video, and what you'd like to see more from this channel. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Goodbye.